It is overtime here at Old Favorite Friday, which means that we are talking about another classic, incredible beer and giving it the love and attention that it properly deserves. I am joined by Joel Codner, our head brewer here at Barrel of Monks Brewing, and we are talking about Dragon's Milk from New Holland Brewing Company. Now, a couple weeks ago, we took a week off because of hurricanes and whatnot. But a couple weeks ago, we featured a beer from Bell's from my home state of Michigan. Apparently, I'm feeling nostalgic, and all the beers we're going to feature going forward are going to be from Michigan. This is a brewery that I visited years and years ago that I absolutely love. There's a ton of beers that I really enjoy from this brewery, and this is the first time I've had a Dragon's Milk in quite a while. And you said the same thing about yourself, Joel. You know, been a while. What's your impressions?
It is every bit what I remember. It has been a while, but this thing is rich, creamy, roasty, sweet, chocolate, vanilla. I mean, it covers all bases.
Yeah.
And I can't believe, we were talking about this before we started recording. How is this everywhere? I mean, I see this in my Publix all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And, to not see a pack of this in like every shopper's cart feels wrong. It's such a damn good beer. It really checks so many boxes when you talk about, I don't want to necessarily say pastry stouts, but it has that structure. And this doesn't need anything else. It doesn't have to be loaded with adjuncts whatsoever.
Nope.
It is great just from the barrel character and the base beer itself. But it feels like there's also so much you could do with this. And I have seen some variants out there. I don't remember exactly what they were, but man, what a beer.
Listen, we are brewers and we do sell barrel-aged beer, and we want to treat barrel-aged beer with a lot of reverence, and they're important to our portfolio, and they do take time and extra money to be able to produce them. But I think there is this notion that a bourbon barrel beer can't be a beer that you find in Publix. That if it's there, then it must not be as high quality as some of the uber rare 750 small production releases. But there's nothing magic to making a bourbon barrel beer. You start with a great imperial stout, get some quality bourbon barrels, you put them together, and you make a good beer, right? You can scale that up. There's nothing that says you can't.
Right.
And I think there is a misconception from maybe propagated by people like us, because we want these beers to be special, that I think this gets kind of under the radar because of that. That I think there's some people that might be beer aficionados that might not have had this beer at all, because the first time they were exposed to it was at a grocery store, and say, well, that can't be that good. Well, I got news for you, partner. This is an absolutely incredible freaking beer.
It is.
This is heads and tails ahead of so many of the bourbon barrel imperial stouts that I have tried locally, in smaller production with higher ratings. This is a much better beer than a lot of those, because there's no infection, there's no notes of sourness to it, it's perfectly balanced. It's not just a bourbon bomb for the sake of a bourbon bomb. I mean, what do you think about that?
No, I totally agree. And one thing you have to take into consideration is, for them to be brewing this and distributing it as far and wide as they are, that means they've got to be making a lot of it. And if you're going to work with that much barrelage and everything, I mean, you've got to have a good QC program in line. And I guarantee that they are doing all sorts of QA/QC checks to make sure that nothing goes sideways with this if you're going to send it, especially somewhere like Florida where, just on a room temperature shelf somewhere, if there was something wrong with it, it would go sideways real fast. So
You'd know it.
And this thing is remarkable. The date code here, it's a little over 6 months old. It is still hot. I mean, you could lay this thing down. It's 11% alcohol. You could lay this down for a while. And I think we should take these last two and forget the other guys. Don't share these. Let's lay them down and do an Old Favorite Friday in 6 months or a year.
Yeah, this is a great beer. I'm so happy that I got a chance to revisit this one, because, like we always talk about, great beers out there that we used to love. I remember the first time I got my hands on this beer. It was a bomber that I had bought from the brewery in Holland, Michigan, that I brought home and shared with some friends of mine in a bottle share. And it was everything that I knew it, or I thought it would be, and more. And I've only sporadically had it. I mean, this is 15, 20 years ago at this point. This beer first came out in 2001, by the way, which makes it freaking ancient in the beer world. But I've only had it sporadically since then. And when we do with this series is we always go back and go, well, what the fuck was I thinking? Not having this beer all the time. Yeah. And like you said, walking down the aisle at your local grocery store and seeing this beer and going, oh, wait a minute, I could have been drinking this last week.
Anytime.
Right? Yeah.
I feel the same way. And it's the first one I had was in 2011. This was long before it was distributed here. I was in D.C. with our mutual friend Ed Roberts, Total Wine, shout out, and we were, farting around at a bottle shop, and he goes, "Oh, you got to get this one." And it was the bomber size too. It wasn't in 4-packs, and we were planning, bring a few things back that weren't distributed in Florida because back in 2011 we did not get a lot here.
Nope.
Not many breweries at all, especially not a lot of crazy beer in the stores either. So I got a chance to buy one of these in DC, take it home, and it was incredible.
Yeah. Great brewery. They have tons of other beers out there, I should say, that you can go and try to pick up. I don't see a lot of them in Florida, where we are, but Dragon's Milk is widely available. So you should be able to find this beer if you seek it out. And obviously, if you're watching for us from other states, we don't know what the availability is there. But it's definitely a old favorite beer and an incredible beer, one that deserves a lot of respect. And one that being brewed way back in 2001, I mean, this would have been a pioneer beer in this style, and
100%.
and still holds up. And that's such an important thing to recognize, is that just because a beer's been around for a long time doesn't mean that the quality's changed at all. In fact, you know what? They get better because the people get better at making them, and
right.
the QC practices are better,
right.
and they understand how to maintain their barrel program better. It's not just standing around a tank going, "You want those one in a bourbon barrel?" and then seeing what happens. That's not this. This is well thought out, well balanced, roasty, flavorful, delicious. From my home state, I'm a little bit biased, but I think you're not. You're a Chicago guy, so you have no hometown team here.
Well, I got to get on your team for a minute here. I mean, this beer is fantastic. This brewery is fantastic. I hope, we see more of them here. This is really the main. It's funny, like normally you'll see the brewery's light beer or their IPA, like those seem to be the standards. New Holland, all I see is Dragon's Milk. It's like they're leading with this, and
Yeah.
I like that. I respect that.
Yeah, it's incredible. So please go out and check out New Holland as a brewery. Go check out Dragon's Milk. Also, tell us in the comments what we should be trying next week. If there's a beer that you really, really enjoy and you want to see us kind of review, and poke around and see all the other videos where Joel and I talk about incredible beers that we love, and we hope you love too. Cheers.
Cheers.